Hello, friends. Today's guest, good friend of mine, mastermind member of our founders mastermind. We've done some business together with his amazing company, ShineOn. Just a really good dude, Eric Tockzo. And I've had some really developed men on lately, and Eric is no exception. This guy is just an unbelievable businessman. Super humble, super self-aware, just a great guy. Going to St. Pete soon for some business travel, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting together with him in person when I do that as well. But we had a really good conversation today. I feel like I'm really getting in a groove with these episodes, so I'm enjoying these more and more, and I hope you like them too, right? So, enjoy the episode with Eric Tockzo.
This is Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams, where differing opinions are not only accepted, they're encouraged.
All right, Eric, we're live. How was your breathing exercise before we got started?
I don't know what I would do without the Wim Hof app.
What's that? The Wim Hof app?
So Wim Hof he's known as the Iceman. So he holds all these world records for, like he climbed Mount Everest in shorts, no shirt, no shoes. He holds the world record for longest ice bath, and he's just kind of a crazy man. And the reason why he started doing these cold techniques and these breathing exercises is actually to get over a massive trauma he had in his life when his wife committed suicide. So he went and started going into these streams in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands, and he started doing these breathing exercises in the freezing river in the winter, and that helped him calm down. It helped him get out of his head. And so what he's done with this breathing app is his 30 plus years of experience, and it's actually scientific. They hooked him up to electrodes and they measured everything, and the way he teaches you to breathe is it stimulates the biggest release of neurotransmitters for you and calms you down.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna look at my app store right now. How is it spelled?
Wim, W-I-M, Hof, H-O-F.
Got it. Okay, I'm downloading it. I just started using the Wim Hof Method.
Mm-hmm.
I just started using the I Am app. Have you heard about that? It's like daily affirmations.
No, but I'm into that.
And then I have the Calm app, which is like daily meditations. You maybe heard of that one, Calm.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be game changing. I just felt like energetically, and I'm not just saying this because I'm pretty like authentic. Like just like your energy is like really calming. Like I just felt like I was like getting a little anxious because we were having those like pre-show like issues. I'm like, why isn't this working? And then after I like settled down and like brought you up on the screen, I just feel calm. So you have that power. That's probably good for your leadership role in running a company, right? Just calming people down.
Well, people have said this before, that I seem really calm on the outside, but I think it's like I need to be calm because I have a lot going on the inside, and it's sort of a defense mechanism. Like I have to try to do that to maintain progress, to keep it together, keep a good attitude. So yeah, I'm really into like figuring out how to chill out through breathing, through meditation, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because I think the same thing about myself at times, but after further review, it's like an NFL challenge. After further review of myself, I think because just we both do have a level of self-awareness. We view just our normal thoughts as like a bunch going on, but in all actuality, that's like normal thoughts because I'm a big energy guy and I do a lot of self work and I work with a lot of coaches and I've done a lot of that, and I feel like I can just pick up on your energy, and I can definitely pick up on anxious energy, and I don't feel that you have too much of it. So maybe you do and I'm just like way off on this, but maybe give yourself a little more credit where it's just like those are kind of normal thoughts you're having, and just because you're maybe more self-aware than the average person, you look at them, maybe you're a little self-critical of those thoughts, right? Where you still are relatively calm compared to many.
I think it's a natural habit now. Yeah, definitely. But at the beginning, a few years ago, when I started the business and I was just in pure survival mode, I was addicted to lots of things. I was addicted to Adderall, coffee. Literally, like every night in Brooklyn, I was going out, getting drunk, doing all sorts of substances because it was just so stressful. I was using that as sort of to overcome those feelings of being afraid to pay my rent and all that. And so I just kind of let go at night, and I let go through coffee, Adderall, alcohol, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it got to a point where I just felt so miserable. And I was like, I need to do something. So I actually went, I went monk mode, for 3 months, like cut out every single substance and just let my brain sort of rewire, because basically any addiction or even thought pattern it's just related to neurotransmitters. You either have a deficiency or too much of certain neurotransmitters. So if you stop everything and go cold turkey, it allows your body to sort of reset and resensitize. So let's see. For 90 days, I didn't do any caffeine. I didn't do any alcohol. I only did cold showers. I didn't listen to music because actually music can set off dopamine too. Like hard rock or like EDM music sets off a lot of dopamine. So yeah, no coffee, alcohol, no other types of caffeine, obviously no Adderall, no hot showers, no music, no masturbation, literally nothing. Just work and drink water and eat food and sleep. And that was it. And it was amazing. I got to a point where I could literally look at a puppy on the street and just start laughing and crying because just that like little puppy would set me off. It triggered enough dopamine now that I was resensitized to do that. So.
See, that's some. Now we're getting to some good stuff. See, it is wild though, and I think I can relate. Like when I first started my first business in my early 20s, and we actually have a few things in common. I realized as I was kind of doing some prep for this episode. My first company was a manufacturing company too. I think you know that, my food truck manufacturing company. So. I don't know too many other manufacturers. So we both have a manufacturing company, but American made, baby. Do you know the show How It's Made? Do you know that show?
Mm-mm.
It's not nearly as important for you now, but it's like a Discovery Channel show. There'll be 3 segments an episode, and it's how 3 different things are manufactured. There's like 20 seasons. It's been going on a really long time. It's one of the longest running shows. It's called How It's Made. And we actually were the episode on how a food truck is made on Discovery. It's on Hulu if you want to look it up.
Really? Yeah, I'd love to watch that.
Yeah, it's only a few minute episode, and they literally just show our company name like at like a 1-second text at the very end of the episode in the credits. Like our team members are like wearing our company shirts and they like blur out the logo. It's like, God. Come on now. I thought we were going to get a little promotion, but apparently they're really big about just making it not about promoting other businesses. But back to what I was saying though, I remember having that intense amount of anxiety where like every night I would be like up late thinking about ideas, how we can improve, how we can grow. Like, is the business, maybe the business is just going to go under tomorrow? Like just literally like worst well, I can't remember the word, like catastrophizing, like thinking like the world's gonna fucking end basically. Like did you have thoughts like that, and do you still have like similar things pop up?
I think, yes. I think, by the way, I'm in our factory. Maybe I'll have to give you guys a tour sometime.
It's blurry
But
as heck. You got the blur setting on, but that's okay.
we have a bunch of machinery here, and anyone who's welcome can come to Tampa.
We're coming. I'm gonna come soon. I'm gonna come visit in the next 30 days because Kyler's been reaching out to set a call, by the way, to discuss updates on Founders Mastermind. But our first meetup is actually going to be in St. Pete, so it's going to be extremely convenient for you.
Oh my God.
We had to do it in Florida for the first one because just with everything going on, we didn't want to take a chance on. We're doing it in California at the end of the year, but yeah, we'll share more with you when we hop on.
So
with Kyler.
I'm a member of the yacht club in St. Pete, so it's potential we could use that space. It's super nice.
That's actually interesting. We're looking at the Vinoy. We actually were going to maybe finalize something with them, but if you think, I'm definitely down to explore the yacht club too. Maybe those are the two.
Well, it would be free. It would be free because I already paid for the membership.
That would be clutch, man. I mean, that's very nice of you. Yeah, we'll definitely set up some time, and when I'm coming down, because I'm going to want to finalize in person, we'll set some time to get together, and it's very nice of you offering, so thank you.
Well, but yeah, I think to answer your question, like when you're first starting a business and you don't have any funding, there's two problems going on. There's actually three problems going on and if you don't overcome this, it's not going to work. One is just a lack of physical money to try to start the business. Two is sort of product market fit. Am I like building the right thing? Will this get enough traction? And then the third one that a lot of people don't talk about is validation, right? Especially in Silicon Valley, there's this extreme need for people to have validation through getting their seed round of funding, through getting into TechCrunch, to just having their idea validated and having them validated as a person. And so I think that opportunity to have validation actually attracts a lot of people that have previously had tough lives. So these people who had tough childhoods growing up, who had crappy, really bad experiences or got picked on in school, they're like, fuck all you guys. I'm going to build this amazing business and I'm going to crush it. And I'm going to show you how much of a badass I am. But they're actually of course, that can be leveraged, that sort of motivation early on. And it got me to where I am, which is like a $40 million a year business. But that seeking that validation early on actually makes it more difficult than it already is of being underfunded and figuring out your product market fit.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of hits home for me. So how was your childhood? What do you think happened in your childhood that made you motivated to do what you're doing early on?
Yeah, so it's pretty good timing to ask me because I've recently gone back and rekindled a lot of things with my parents. Actually, in the last couple weeks, so a friend of mine a friend of mine said something to me, and I connected a few dots back to my childhood. And so I ended up weeping because I made this connection and I've been trying to figure it out my whole life. I won't go into all the details, but myself, like a lot of entrepreneurs, had a very difficult childhood. You know, we had different forms of like abuses and just abandonment, right? And so that translates to maybe being picked on in high school. And for me, my way to overcome like all that stuff was actually just to be good at sports. So I ended up being like a 3-sport athlete in college. Like I played football, rugby, and I ran track. And that was sort of my outlet. I was like, fuck all you guys, I'm going to be just the best athlete. So I would train, even when I was like 16, 17, I would be training till like 2, 3 in the morning, doing suicides in the gym, like crazy stuff like that. Just being utterly pissed off. And what ended up happening is I actually hurt my ankle in college, and I had ankle surgery. And I was also doing pre-med. So I was like really like hardcore, show the world, all this stuff. Hurting my ankle was the best thing that ever happened to me, because instead of doing more sports, I actually just took a break and actually went to Australia for like 6 months. And instead of having all my friends who were jocks, I started connecting with other types of people, like artists and all these people that came with me on this study abroad trip. And so there I was surfing, I was doing artwork, I was doing photography, like all this amazing creative stuff. And I was like, holy shit, like this is so me. That I'm not the person I thought I was. Like the strain of overcoming, I didn't have to do that anymore. I could just be in self-expression. So the way I could self-express was actually through marketing. I came back after that experience to college, finished my senior year, and I was like, I want to get into marketing because, I can be creative and not be poor. And so that set me off on a long journey of actually having a job in Manhattan at a media agency, like an advertising firm, accepting it and then losing it in the same week because of the crash in the stock market in 2008. I was a roofer. I actually went home to New Hampshire and I was like a roofer for a year before I moved to Boston, and then I started with an SEO internship, and that's how I got into digital marketing. So.
Yeah, no, that's so. Your relationship with your parents, do you feel like it's at a better place than it's been historically, currently?
Well, there's been many times where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do the opposite of how I grew up. I'm going to do the opposite of what my parents did. And that system has sort of worked to help get me to where I am. It's been good kind of motivation. I've been angry for various reasons. So it can be a fuel, but it's not going to make you happy. At some point, you have to come back and you have to really work through those traumas and kind of what happened to you. And if you can sort of make peace with them, I think the most important thing is fully understanding them, right? And so in the last year or two, our company's exploded. We've made a lot of money. We've helped a lot of people make a lot of money. But I wasn't super happy. Even this Christmas, I went to Hawaii with my whole family and something was wrong. But I couldn't put my finger on it. So if you're going through something similar, if anybody's going through something similar, and you're doing all your personal growth, you're reading all your books, you're really trying as hard as you can to work on yourself, but something is still not wrong, you just have to hold hope that you're going to meet the right coach or expert or friend who's going to say this one thing to you, and it's going to trigger some of those old traumas, and you're going to connect the dots. And just having that awareness of what those are is going to help you so much.
Yeah. I've had conversations with my parents the last couple of years, and from different coaching and therapy work that I've done, and I think the challenging thing for parenting and like parents' defense is, especially if they weren't like mentored or parented properly or coached or self-aware,
Right.
like all we typically know is how to like take care of our own needs. Like that's why like the 5 love languages is so important, right? Because we realize it's like everybody receives love in different ways, and that's just a super high level basic version of this. But I think the next evolution for just being good friends, having good relationships in general is we naturally just feel if like I like to receive love this way, this is what's going to make everybody happy. And I think those like early years for kids, sometimes those kids do receive love the exact same way you're willing to give it, but oftentimes they don't. And the validation one is like hit home for me that you mentioned earlier. And I don't know about you, but when I started my manufacturing company in my early 20s, like I was like, I want to prove all these people wrong. Like I don't know if you like had a lot of success with like the female department in high school, but I didn't.
Nope.
And I was like, I want like every girl that wasn't interested in me, fuck her. Like I'm gonna show her. Like it, like that was my motivation for many years. And I think the validation of business, like that's a interesting share because I never thought about it exactly like that. But I felt like that's what I lacked the most as a child was like, hey, like you're doing a good job with this, or like, hey, that's pretty creative that you're doing that, or just like lacked that validation. So I felt like I was just,
You're unseen.
yeah, I felt one of my favorite books that I would recommend to you. I actually had the author on this podcast because it's one of my favorite books. It's called I Hear You. It's literally a book about validating feelings. And he has a story in the book where he gives an example of a guy is with his son at like Wendy's, I think is in this. And the dad is on his cell phone and the son is like drew something and he's like, hey dad, look, like look what I drew. And the dad's like, that's cool, son, and just like look back at his phone, you know. And the son's just like he said was just holding like the picture up for like 30 seconds, and this kid's just like seeking like, hey, you did a great job, or what did you draw there, or why did you draw that, or like he was just seeking that validation. And when I heard that that example in the book, I was like, that is a like that felt like a giant like summary in one example of like how I felt as a child. It's like, hey, I'm doing this cool stuff, and I just like I wish someone would notice. And then maybe not being like the most popular, like I was never like super picked on because I was like a bigger guy, like not too many people were gonna like fuck with me, but I definitely wasn't like super popular. I wasn't like super successful with women and stuff. Like I didn't party, I didn't like I didn't even like start drinking till my early 20s, you know. So I didn't do any like thing like that in high school. Same. So I just was like kind of an outcast, like did my own thing. And you know, I so business was the first time that I started feeling somewhat validated. Oh wow, you're doing well. Like even people that knew nothing about me and weren't important to me, they were giving me that validation that I never felt I received, right?
Okay.
And it's wild how we just become addicted to that.
That little kid, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but the kid who's unseen is going to, so that's hardwired in them, right? They're going to be seeking that, they're going to be seeking to transact on that validation they never had their whole life. But then when they actually do achieve something, they're going to be like, why don't I still don't feel good. What's going on? And it's because they still have work to do in the past. If they don't unlock that past, meaning literally needs to go resolve it with his father, then your current status, your current success will never feel good. And so this was kind of something similar to what happened with me. And I was encouraged by a healer. I connected with a healer in Costa Rica. He actually discovered that my other friend had Lyme disease through a Zoom call. He's like, you have Lyme disease. So this same gentleman, and I'm happy to make an introduction, but the same guy, he basically pointed at me. He's like, you know, he's like, the problem with your life isn't, or this feeling you have, it's not caused by anything going on right now. Your current relationships are fine. That's not the problem. He's like, you actually need to go back to your mom and you need to resolve this thing with your mom. So I did that. And it was just like, man, I haven't cried like that in years. Just feel like all the shit got unlocked that I was trying to figure out for my whole entrepreneurship experience. You know, I figured out the root cause and the reason for needing validation and success. And now everything to me, I'm happy being self-aware. Like I understand now. And now it's like, now what do I want to do? Now how do I want to rewrite myself? How do I want to experience life? It's open now that I've resolved all those past traumas.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats. And it is wild. I feel the more of this type of work, and we seem pretty aligned in like doing this type of work with ourselves. I feel, at least for me, and let me know if you agree, I'm able to see this more in other people now because they act exactly how I used to act. So I can, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I could be like, I see traits and I'm just like, they're like really seeking validation or approval. And I know that because that's the exact same thing I used to do. So I know from experience, and maybe the same thing, I still do it in cases. I just am trying to be like more aware, where it's just like maybe before I say something or before I act on something, I can pause and be like, okay, why am I doing this? Is it because I'm, seeking this deep down validation? And that's where I've been reading a lot of books on effective communication, and have you read the book Attached? Have you heard about that? I would highly recommend it. I read it twice in the last 2 weeks. It's about your attachment style in close relationships. Are you familiar with like attachment styles?
I'm familiar with codependency.
So I think Attached. Are you single?
Currently, yes.
Okay, so I am too. I think this Attached book will like change your life and how you view relationships. So it basically says and I'd be curious which one you are from your upbringing, and you could be anxious like me, but there's the anxious attachment style, there's the avoidant attachment style, and there's the secure attachment style. And it's like, if you look at like, I'm trying to like, if you look in the middle, like anxious, and there's different levels of anxious and there's different level of avoidance, but there's secure that's kind of in the middle. And oftentimes anxious and avoidance, if you're extreme anxious, you will attract an extreme avoidant. And it's just like wild once you get a feel of, like, I'm an extreme anxious attachment, which basically means I constantly need good communication and reassurance in times. Like, that's basically what the whole purpose of the book is like, you can make a relationship work if you're anxious. Ideally, a secure works best with an avoidant, and a secure works best with an anxious, and secure works best for secure. If you're going to be an anxious and an anxious, or avoided and anxious, or whatever, it's going to be really challenging. But what they say is, in the book, and it's written by like 2 doctors. I mean, it's like a really, really, really good book. Like, I think it would like be super impactful for you in all types of close relationships, not just romantic, but it applies the most for me for romantic, but I see it coming up in other close relationships. The anxious style, I just need to be communicated with. And that's where I think like just being aware of the validation is so key. It's just like, hey, for me, I get really stressed out in this case, A, B, and C. So if you could just let me know, like, when this is happening, or communicate with me, or like, if, we need to have this discussion, let's have it, so I don't go to bed like super anxious, or like super like, fearing that the worst is going to happen. Right. So the point like of that whole book is really just being aware of your attachment style, and being willing to have that effective communication with your partner or friend or family member, so you guys can, and if they're close enough to you and they care about the relationship enough, they're going to be willing to invest in understanding your attachment style, is the principle of the book too. If like someone truly cares about you, they're going to be open and willing to make some shifts in how they do things, and then vice versa, right? You're going to be willing to do something for them too. But I would highly recommend that. I, again, read it twice in the last 2 weeks, and I'm really looking forward to, more close relationships in my life because of it, because I just feel like I'm going to be able to navigate them in a much healthier way.
Yeah, I think probably 80% of people are in relationships are codependent in some form, right? Even if it's slight. I think it's a huge thing. And a friend of mine is actually probably the world expert on this. Her name's Lisa Romano. And she just does like incredible work. She actually, she was like a mother of 3, married for like 15 years, just in a horrible shape because she had like a severe sort of codependency. And she started doing this work, got divorced, got remarried, learned every single thing she could about herself, read every single thing about codependency, and now I think she puts out amazing content. And the stuff she says, it's awesome. But yeah, I really think it's pretty prevalent, honestly. And I think a lot of people in relationships, they actually want to just skip doing all that self-awareness work. They want to skip to the validation of, I want to get married, I want to have kids, and they just want to leapfrog everything. But eventually, like, all that shit they didn't work on is going to come out. So you really need to become self-aware as best you can, really look at yourself, go back, all those things, and you'll actually be a better entrepreneur too if you do that, instead of just trying to skip to success and validation. Like, so much work we all need to be doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, close relationships are close relationships, whether it's your wife or a co-founder of your company or somebody on your executive team or a close partner of yours. Like, a lot of these skills and awareness like apply to all those relationships. So
God, yeah.
If you can have the ability to have that awareness and I was talking with my friend on last week's episode, it's just like being able to, I think when the more self-awareness, you're able to communicate more effectively and like deliver information where it's not as attacking. It's more of just like helping and from a place of love and stuff like that too, because I think this is something else I realized we have in common and, before the show. And I think I've kind of subconsciously realized this before, but I actually just put it into like words now for the first time. Like, you're like a pretty humble, like low-key guy for the success. Like, I mean, our company doesn't do 40 million, so you're, by revenue numbers, you're, more successful than me in that sense. But where do you think that comes from? Because I admire that, and I actually align myself with that. Like, I am gonna actually get a car now again. I'm gonna get a Ford Bronco just because I haven't had it's gonna be like 2 years almost since I've had a car. But I just like I'm just getting clear on what's important to me and what isn't, and super flashy material things and stuff like that just isn't super important. Bragging about like how successful I am, like all that stuff, and I just respect that about you because you're one of the more successful guys in our community, but you just have like a humbleness about you. Where do you think that came from?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your kind words. So I think that my football coach one time, he told me, you have to sacrifice what you want in the moment for what you want most. Okay? So you have to run that extra suicide. You have to run that extra hill sprint. You have to do the extra reps. It's a temporary sacrifice to get what you want most in the end. And so for me, like with the business, products like ClickFunnels and Shopify and dropshipping have made it so easy for people to be profitable like instantly that they're kind of just or info products, they're just addicted to like, great, I crushed that. What's the next thing? Crush that. What's the next thing? Crush that. But they're not really like building like a business. They're kind of just moving amongst other offers and creating content and stuff. But for me, it's like I always had this vision. I had a vision, right? And it took 5 years to get there. We're finally here. We're pretty much at the peak where I thought I could ever be in my life. And it ended up being exactly what I thought it would be. But there were times for the first 4 years where I was like, everyone around me was making a ton of money, and I was making nothing, dude. I was paying myself like 50 grand for like the first 3 years, and I didn't have a previous win before that. It was just I had a belief and I had a vision, and I remember going to Applebee's alone at like 11 o'clock at night, setting up our first factory because that was the only thing that was open. So I think the humbleness comes from just going through a bunch of shit. Like, I like doing the hard things nobody else wants to do. They're not glamorous, but over time, if you stick with it, there is a chance that you could really win big. And so now that we're sort of more widely known, everyone thinks we're this overnight success, but we're not. It's just, I've been doing this grind for so long that nothing really throws me off anymore. I don't need to brag. I don't need to get flustered when somebody says something bad about me. Like, I'm just pretty even keeled overall now because I've just been through the shit and I've just been consistent on my vision. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I can kind of relate. I mean, when you just like my manufacturing company, and like you can maybe have something similar. It's just a very capital intensive business. It's a whole different world than these like online businesses I'm in now. And I'm in that by design because manufacturing was really tough on me. Like it was probably the worst business to start for my first business from a likelihood of success, but the best business to start for like everything I can learn in one business. Like we were so capital intensive. We like, if you don't finish stuff on time or, order product correctly, or, one vendor or partner can like fuck up your deadlines on stuff. I mean, I felt like it was the most stressful business model, and there was just so many moving parts, and it was just so capital intensive that when I got into and I grew it from marketing online. So that's where I started being like, okay, this is a skill set. This is where I see the market opportunity. But dude, I mean, there were multiple times I thought we were going to shut the doors. I had been sued many times, not for malicious intent, but just, we delivered a truck a couple months late, and people would be like, well, I was going to make $100,000 in revenue these first 2 months, so you owe me $200,000 and lost revenue, and just stuff like that. And just like when that happens enough times,
yeah, you're
just like, damn, like I'm not as smart as I once thought I was. I'm not as talented as I thought I was. Like I just I gotta, I still think in the back of my mind like something like that could happen almost daily. Like I don't take anything for granted in that sense, whereas like still I'm like, if something happens, like yeah, I could lose it all. And I think because of that, I just never feel the need to, because like I could brag about something and the next day it'd be gone, like like that would be stupid, right? So I don't know if you can relate with that, but just enough of those things happen, lawsuits and employees stealing, and employees, 3 of my team members started competitor businesses for that first, like how is that even possible? Like I mean, just you name it happened. And it was like, holy shit, like this isn't as fun. Like my ego, when I was a fraction of the success that I am, my ego and my arrogance was like 100x what it is now when I was in my early 20s, and I had like, nothing back then. But then you just keep beaten up time after time, and it's just like, well, maybe I'm not really that smart. Or I also hang around really like successful people that are just good guidance for me and leadership, and like, we do well, but like I'm not going like jet shopping anytime soon, right? So like when they're talking about like, yeah, we're maybe gonna like buy this plane, like, Jeremy, you want to like throw it on this deal and like share it with us? I'm like, dude, like no, like I'm not there. So that kind of humbles me too. It's like, okay, I'm doing well, but I also, there's a while to go. Like there's still a lot of room for growth. I don't know if that resonates at all.
Of course it does, 100%. When you've been chewed up and spit out enough times, it's like there's no room for arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all had our egos dinged many times before. But yeah, I think it's just, we've had our egos dinged before, so there's no need to have one again. On top of that, just having a openness to learning. Like when I go to your events, I'm a specialist in something, but like all those people they're world class in what they do. Like I'm there to learn. I'm under the impression that I don't know anything in lots of different areas. So those are the best entrepreneurs, are the students, consistent learning. And all our employees too. I try to reiterate, like, all we're doing here is we're just learning fast. I didn't know how to do any of these machines. I didn't know how to make a Shopify app. It's just, you just have to be open to learning.
Yeah.
I feel like you know all the answers.
I agree, and I like that's the good thing about the times we're in today, right? Is every bit of information is accessible with like Google and YouTube. Like if you don't know how to do something, you can literally Google how to do it. I mean, which is like how basically every company I've ever started has been formed, right? Like even from like filing docs with the state and like paying taxes and just all that stuff. It's just like you can literally Google how to do anything, or just be around smart people that will help you too. But between those two things, you know what else? Like I meant to mention it at the mastermind, and I'm gonna mention this moving forward, Eric. And I noticed a few people saying this, and it really gets under my skin with entrepreneurs. They will say, and it's my way of knowing that they're an amateur entrepreneur when I hear this. They'll say something about, like, they'll talk shit about being an employee. You know what I'm talking about? They'll be like, yeah, like, I can't work for anybody. Like, fuck that. Like, I work for myself. You know, that type of like attitude. And they like look down upon like people that work for companies. You know what I'm referring to, right?
Of course.
Like that is the word. Like, how are you going to build a business? Like anybody that acts like that obviously doesn't have a successful business, because you can't talk like that and have people that will like gladly come in and like work side by side with you. You know, like obviously anybody that says that doesn't have a team, because it's like entrepreneurship is maybe the best route for you, maybe the best route for me, because we like the freedom and we just like we kind of maybe are addicted to the stress that comes with it and the challenges and the ups and downs. But like we have to have a good dedicated team, or we're not going to be able to do anything, right? And we have to.
That's so. Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I'll hear that, and I even heard it a few times at my mastermind, and I meant it, and I will moving forward. Like if anybody says that, I'm gonna be like, you obviously just like are a solopreneur and you don't have a real business, because like that's not how a super successful business owner would talk, right?
Exactly. Yeah, those people are like. So I was an employee before I started ShineOn. I was an employee at a tech company for 4 years, and I helped make that company successful. I was proud to be an employee there, because when you're starting out, look, like when you're young, you just need access to people. You need access to smart, experienced entrepreneurs. The best way to get access is to prove your worth. So not have an ego, be like the best employee. Making other people money is the absolute best thing you can do, because you'll always have that experience for life. Like, I made that person money, they'll always trust me. They'll invest in anything I want to do in the future. So I remember, like, I made our, when I was at Custom Made, not just me, but, I was part of a team that made the founders a lot of money. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy I made the money. I was part of that experience. I did it. Now, when I wanted to start ShineOn, it wasn't like I can't be an employee. It was more like, oh, I see this awesome gap in the market. Like, I see this awesome potential opportunity. I'm excited. I'm excited about it. I'm not like using negative energy to be like, fuck everyone, I'm going to go do this. It's like, no, I see this like awesome window. So I just kind of went for it.
So what inspired you? Like, what was the moment where you just realized you wanted to start ShineOn as a company? Like, I'm sure you just like had some sort of realization that's where the market opportunity was. Like, what inspired you to actually pull the trigger to start it?
Yeah, it was like 2015, I think. I was still working at Custom Made, and two things happened. First was Teespring started exploding. Teespring went from 0 to like 100 million in like 1 year. Teespring was sort of kicked off a lot of things with drop shipping and print on demand on Facebook. And so they were like an hour away. I was in Boston and they were in Providence. And so we heard a lot about them as a company. And then when I was at Custom Made, I was sort of working on redoing the supply chain. So instead of working with we had like 30,000 storefronts. So we were a little bit like Etsy, but more high end. So we had these 30,000 storefronts, but we were having an issue with like those artisans closing business because they're not business people. We had an issue with like the customer experience. And so at that same time, I was like, guys, why don't we manufacture everything ourselves? And we'll take, instead of 10% fee, we'll take like a 30% margin, and we'll make the customer experience better. So around the same time, Teespring was exploding, and I was like, shit, actually, I love that model of doing one product and selling it to thousands of buyers instead of hundreds of buyers going down a funnel to get one sale, which it would, in our case, was like a custom-made table or engagement ring or something. So it was like a reverse funnel, and I just thought it was so much better. And I had acquired this sort of production knowledge through my experience, and I kind of just rolled it over. I kept working with some of the same people I was working with at Custom Made, and just went for that opportunity. But I actually, because I made our two founders money, they were like, dude, are you kidding me? They're like, hell yeah. Like, we knew you've been wanting to do this for a while. Go do that. And they invested in me. So they took some of that money back and they invested in ShineOn at the beginning as an angel.
That's amazing. Yeah. So that's a really good point you're bringing up. So if you're an employee, like maybe like what we're doing with our company, and not every company can obviously do this, but I think a lot of companies are shifting this way, where I'm trying to create levels of freedom and flexibility to where like they would never want to leave, right? Like, we're never going to be able to pay the most. Like, I think we pay very competitive wages, good wages, but never going to, there's always a bigger, more funded company that's going to be able to pay more if they wanted. But, can they offer flexibility, and can they offer flexibility, I think, is really the big one. But let them share feedback on things they want to be doing more and stuff like that. And so I think creating those spaces for employees to kind of have certain aspects of entrepreneurship, like the freedom and a little bit of flexibility, and maybe if the position makes sense, percentage of upside. So kind of like that entrepreneur role. But what you just brought up, I never really thought about. Yeah, I mean, we have, if there were team members that wanted to start their own thing and they just helped us crush for years, we'd probably be one of the first people to be interested in investing in them. So that's interesting. Anybody that's currently working for a company, I mean, that's really good insight, because my first manufacturing company, the one I started, the guy that invested in me, I met him waiting tables. You just never know. If you just have a good attitude and you work hard, there's gonna be people that are willing to invest in you. It's wild. So congrats on that. I mean, that's so did you just basically leave your role with them, figure out an exit transition, and then they funded your startup? Is that how it worked?
Yeah. Well, actually, a funny part was I was like, hey, can you guys fire me? They're like, dude, of course we'll fire you. Or no, wait. First they were like, why? I was like, well, I don't have any money. If I leave, I can't collect unemployment, and I just need some time to start working on this. So they're like, we actually went out for beers, and they're like, dude, of course we're going to fire you. We're going to fire the shit out of you tomorrow. And I was like, do it. I was like, you won't. You do it. So they fired me the next day, and everyone thought it was just all pre-coordinated. And they then they also gave me some severance money. So I got the unemployment money. I had 10 grand in severance. And then later on, they did actually make a real investment through a convertible note. But yeah, I don't know where I would be with that. I mean, even that money ran out. My employment money ran out. And so the next person who believed in me was my grandmother. I got like $6,000 check from my grandmother. And then friends and family, I raised like 50 grand from friends and family. And the main reason for that is like a seed round investor, they're not going to invest in you if your own friends and family don't believe in you. They're like, why should I, if you can't convince your family and friends to do it, why should I do it? So that taught me a lesson. So I was like, yes, I need to convince the people closest to me that this is important enough for them to invest without any connotation of a return, right? It's just, yeah, I believe in that. I believe in Eric. It's not like I believe in the idea. I believe in Eric as an entrepreneur. And so.
Did you pay them all back?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
With a profit. Yeah, with like, you know, they all at least doubled their money. But they didn't care. They didn't actually care if they got the money back. They just wanted to help me. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then we did the official rounds. Like I've done the seed round. Our first seed round was like 1.3 million. And then I've gone through a bunch of different financings through traditional means, through banks and the SBA and stuff like that. And yeah, it's all good. But my grandmother, she died a couple months ago, and I was just like, Nana, that $6,000. I was like, I told you I would turn it into 20 million, and I did exactly that. And I knew she didn't want the money back. She just believed in me, you know. So it was a very heartwarming experience to tell her all of that.
Yeah, I mean that's sorry to hear that. That's an amazing story, though. I feel like I would buy a product in honor of your grandma if you had one. Seriously,
Maybe.
though, like that's a good story. Yeah. Like what, like who wouldn't like feel for that? You know, because you said you got $6,000 from her.
Uh-huh.
I would imagine the $6,000 was like a large amount of money from her. Like, I mean that was a big investment. Yeah. Like, well, yeah, in general, but you know, I would imagine that like, I mean, all she had to get to in her life to get that $6,000 to then give to you. I mean, that's like almost like the symbolism of the gift in itself from everything is pretty substantial too, you know? So
Yeah.
That's amazing though. I mean, that's, I'm sure she's, you know, extremely proud.
It was good. It wasn't like a sad thing. It was a celebration of her life, and I was just lucky I got to tell her all of that. Because right when she passed was when we were like really peaking in our business in Q4, and it was nice to come full circle with the experience.
Do you think that your family is proud of you for your success with this business?
Yes.
So now that you're just crushing with ShineOn, and congrats again on that, what are your goals over the next few years with the company?
Well, couple goals. So we did like 40 million last year. So we have a goal of doing 100 million in sales. It's not all us though, right? We're like a service for other entrepreneurs. So it's really like, how can we make other people generate 100 million in sales? So it's all about helping people, coming up with more products. We want to launch like 50 new products. Start getting to a rhythm where we launch one new product a week. That's a viral product that's pre-tested by us internally. We carry all the inventory risk. We launch it sort of as an IPO, and we give away all the targeting, and then we give away the sales pages. And so we have custom domains now. We just launched custom domains on the ShineOn platform yesterday. So now we have full end-to-end custom domain, pages, product targeting, fulfillment. We want to make turnkey as possible to make profits. And the most exciting thing for me is to be able to kind of rinse and repeat and do this in Europe and Latin America. So we have one facility here in Florida. And then I want to do the same thing. We're looking at Spain, we're looking at Germany, and we're looking at Brazil and Colombia too. So that, like, teaching e-commerce and entrepreneurship in a place like Colombia, there's just something fascinating about doing that, that I want to start executing on.
Yeah, and that brings up a good topic. Like, you know, I agree with trying to do our best to, make things equal opportunity for people, but entrepreneurship and capitalism, in my opinion, is the great equalizer for people. And I don't like in politics when it's villainized. I think we should be encouraging more people to start businesses, not like just telling all business owners should be they can afford to pay higher wages. They're all greedy. Maybe they can, maybe they can't, whatever. But like entrepreneurship, like for people in Colombia, for people in these countries that maybe their government doesn't give them the best opportunity, like this is the chance for them to reap the benefits of American innovation, American capitalism, and I think that's a good thing. So I think that's great. Like if you could expand.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of entrepreneurship and capitalism, I mean, they go hand in hand, right? The beauty of them is that you're experiencing a full range of human emotions. In socialism, there was actually a guy at your unicorn event who had a t-shirt that said socialism sedates, right? And that's sort of true. Everybody's just sort of zombies going through the motions. But when you're starting a business, you have to face your biggest fears. You have to go through all that. You have to go through the process of validation. You're going to achieve highs and lows. You're going to wonder if you should even be doing this at all. You're going to doubt yourself, and then you're going to love yourself. Like, entrepreneurship is life. You go through, it's the full human experience. And if you fail, that's one experience. You can always try again.
Yeah. It's cliche, but like some of the biggest like quote unquote failures, I mean, I just look back and I'm like, man, I'm 30 now, and I'm like, I learned so much in my 20s. Like I feel like I'm set up to just all the quote unquote failures, just like the bad business partnerships, the lawsuits, the properly or improperly managing money, all that stuff that was like a failure in the moment. I'm like, well, I'm glad I was able to deal with that at the time, because now I'm doing bigger things with more opportunity, and I have a experience in that area now. So it's it is cliche, but it's true. Like in the business world, and probably life in general, but it's more trackable from an ROI standpoint in business. These typically, there's no such thing as like a true failure, because it's just you can take those learning lessons to your next project, right?
It's an experience.
Yeah, I like that word better.
Even if no matter how bad you feel about anything that happens in your life, you're just going through an experience. You're experiencing something. Like, part of me too is sort of like, is God like putting us through these successes and challenges because it's bored and it wants to experience all the human emotions? There's a possibility that that's true. It's just, that's what being human is.
Yeah. Speaking of God, it's a really interesting segue I'm about to drop here. I know we've tried to work on a few projects in the past with ShineOn, and we couldn't make it quite work on the Patriot side of things. I don't know. I just think that demo just whatever wasn't vibing with the products, which is a surprise because I thought we were gonna crush. But we do plan to launch a Christian brand this year, and I think that's gonna resonate with your products a lot better than the patriotic brand. So I am hopeful that we're going to be able to do some nice business together. And Proud Patriots, we're doing 1,000+ orders a day now, so we're doing some pretty good volume. We're running into typical issues you would imagine scaling to that amount of volume. So we're figuring that stuff. But we do.
People still buying Trump stuff?
They are. We're doing our best to not rely on Trump stuff, though. We're launching. We just launched like a 9/11 collection that's doing good or doing well. I don't know what the proper English. I didn't go to college, so I don't know. But
9/11?
Yeah, we just came up we'll just come up with different designs, and the goal, it's like you come up with 10 things. If one takes off, we came up with like a 9/11 kind of like remembering 9/11 design of bill and coin, and that's off to a good start. We have our Space Force and other military stuff that does well. We have our older presidents stuff that does well. So we have a lot of SKUs. We're Second Amendment stuff, a lot of stuff that does well, but Trump stuff still does make up a good chunk of our product sales. We're just doing our best to diversify and not completely rely on Trump. And because of traffic channels restricting us, we don't have a choice. So we have to come up with products that don't have to do with, that aren't viewed as political ads, which anything with Trump in it is viewed as a political ad, right? So it's, forcing us, which maybe it's a blessing in disguise. I'm trying to look at all this as a blessing in disguise. It's forcing us to come up with new product lines that can get people into the ecosystem that aren't maybe as controversial, that are more just true patriotic, proud to be American, maybe something that's gonna be even appealing to like a center left, like historian type of product. So we're always gonna, I think a lot of our brands are gonna lean right, but we're coming up with designs that are more Facebook and Google friendly, right? Which is ultimately gonna put us in a better position long term, that we're not reliant on just controversial Trump type stuff. Because we I would, our brand, this one brand is Proud Patriots. I would consider myself a proud patriot for sure. I'm grateful to be in this country. I don't consider myself, I'm not like a card carrying Republican. I have some very progressive views. I'm very conservative views too. I just make my own opinion on everything. I'm not like a partisan, but I am grateful to be in this country, and I think we all should be grateful to be in this country, especially we see what's going on. And so yeah, I mean, it just over time, what's interesting, and I've shared this before on another episode, we started it as like a money earning opportunity, right? And who would have thunk that 2020 would have happened? And I'd be like, you know what? I love this Constitution more than ever. I love freedom of speech more than ever. And most Americans will agree, I kind of like the Second Amendment. Even super far left people were buying guns, right, during lockdowns. So it's okay, I think it's pretty wild that this old of a system is, look at what's going on in the last year, and how applicable is the First and Second Amendment in the country. Isn't that wild? They just happen to be the First and Second Amendment. It's yeah, I'm gonna want to speak on what I want to speak about. I'm gonna want to go to church, and I'm gonna want to get some protection for my house. How applicable? I feel everybody I don't know, it's just wild. But yeah, it's a 250-year-old system that still seems pretty, people are the same, right? So we haven't really changed too much in 250 years.
I'm still blown away by how genius everything was when they set it up. From the Constitution to checks and balances between the three branches.
Yeah.
Just how voting works, like in Congress, like it's unbelievable. Seriously, unbelievable.
It really is. And yeah, and I know, like, we obviously have, like, I'm not going to be like, we were perfect, like, we never made any mistakes. Obviously, like, there's some big mistakes, like slavery and stuff from our past. Like, but a lot of the foundation of the country, and there were guys like Jefferson who married a young black woman and had children with her. Like, he was obviously, like, that's what's, like, it's interesting about those times is, like, he obviously wasn't racist, right? But he was, like, kind of okay with slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, and that the African leaders were selling the slaves to Europe and the United States, right? So it's like black people were selling other black people to. So it's really interesting, but like, yeah, I think everybody can agree that that was a big mistake, but there are still a lot of, good things to look at, and far from perfect, but I'd be curious to see, another country out there that we would say has done a better job. That's where it comes down to as well. But yeah, it's a lot of room to grow, and I'm excited for, like, younger people like us to maybe get into power or have more influence one day, because I think kind of like the stuff we're working on with ourselves and self-awareness, I think would be great for, the whole country to be working on. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. But yeah, it ended up, the business started as just a money-making opportunity because we're entrepreneurs and capitalists. And I'm just like, you know what? These are cool products. I am proud to be in this country, regardless if I don't agree. Like, we sell right-leaning stuff. Like, I would say I'm a center-right, but I don't agree with everything. That's okay. I don't have to agree with everything, but we have American-made products. We're providing American jobs. Like, that's pretty cool, right? So I have
a tip for you and all the people selling American-made stuff. In the checkout, we've been experimenting with leave a tip for us to support American wages and American labor, and 15 to 20% of people leave a tip.
That's good. I'm actually gonna let me write
My
that
tip
down.
is the tip.
The tip is the tip. I like that. Well, this is good. We're gonna, like, test that ASAP. I know we've been talking about doing something like that, but anything else you want to share before we bounce? Obviously, your company info and stuff will be in the show notes and things like that. So,
man, it's been a pleasure. I love where we ended. I love where we started. And we talked about a lot of different things. I appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise, man. And I'll keep you posted on my trip to St. Pete, and let's get on that call with Kyler too, so we can update you on everything with founders. We have some exciting stuff going on this year. I'm like, my goal, like, you know how I am, like, we will have the best mastermind in our industry. Like, I know that's going to be the case because I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to deliver the most unique combination of everything. People think they're coming for tactics, and there are going to be some tactics, but we both know, kind of like what we talked about in this episode, what we really need to grow ourselves as entrepreneurs is some of the stuff we hit on early, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, not that it's going to be like a fucking Tony Robbins event, but I think incorporating some of that stuff, doing some group activities, having a healthy balance of sharing with peers, and I'm really excited to just be the best and offer something really unique in the marketplace. So
I'm 100% confident it's gonna kick ass.
Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on.
See you out there. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player so you get updated when new episodes are live. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support is to leave a 5-star review and share the podcast with people in your life that you feel would benefit from these types of discussions. Visit openlyoutspoken.com for additional details on the show. Find out how to connect with Jeremy on social media and learn more information about Jeremy's personal and business life. We'll see you next time.